Hi everybody! Today I'm going to teach you how to make a little sketchbook out of a brown paper bag. I think this is something we all have, and I love the idea of turning trash into something useful. It's always been something I've really been interested in, is taking scraps and trash and things that other people don't find useful or necessary and turning it into something I can use. So you can see here I'm just breaking the bottom of the paper bag. You don't have to be super careful here because you're going to cut this off. It's a scrap piece in the end. And then you're going to find the side seam of the bag and just tear along that. And be a little more careful here, but you don't have to be super careful. We will trim this up. There we go. Now the bag's all open. I usually get 2 sketchbooks out of 1 paper bag, so I will show you how to make one, and then the other one you just make the exact same way. You'll see me set aside the piece of paper. So my paper cutter is only 12 by 12, so that kind of sets the maximum width that I can start with. So here I am just folding the bag so that it will fit in my paper cutter. I did not plan as well as I thought I did, because as you can see here in just a moment, it's not going to fit in my paper cutter. And it takes me a second to realize that. I kind of try and make it fit anyways, and then I realize that's just not going to work. So I refolded the bag, just kind of brought some of the ends closer in, and then I'll be able to make it fit after another attempt that does not fit. So here we go. Now my little ADHD brain has finally figured it out and I can fit it in my paper cutter. So this is just the first step to trim up those ends. I always just remove those and then I cut it down to size after I trim up everything. That's my personal preference. You can cut it to size from the get-go if you want, but I like to trim up those bottom ends, and then as you can see I'm going to flip it over and trim up the top. I've seen people who have left the top as is, but because most paper bags have that little swoop in the top, I don't like that. I also don't like the crinkle edge for my paper bag sketchbooks, so I go ahead and just cut a little bit off the top, and that makes it a nice straight cut. You can see me deciding how much I want to cut right there. So I cut just enough to straighten up that top. I'd rather cut more at the bottom because there's already some folds down there that I don't care for. So now I'm lining it up with the back edge of my paper cutter, which is conveniently 12 inches. So if I line it up with the back edge, I know that it will fit in my paper cutter. I've tried making sketchbooks out of that little bit that I just pushed off to the side, and they turn out very, very tiny. They're just too small to really be useful. I suppose if you wanted to make something just for the fun of it, you certainly could. And then here I'm just trimming off the ends that were the middle of the bag where we separated it. And again, this is all just to clean it up and make it look a little bit nicer. So I'm not done with the cutter just yet, but I'm going to move it to the side just so I can fold my paper bag in half and get a good idea of how big my 2 sketchbooks are going to be. So I like to just fold it in half, and then I'll cut along that half mark, that halfway mark, and then I know I have 2 equally sized sketchbooks. So there I am, just giving a little fold. Get my cutter back in place, and now I will cut it. You really don't have to be as finicky with lining it up as I am here. I just very much wanted to cut right along that crease line since I was recording. I'm usually not that precise when I'm just making them for myself, but I wanted to show a nice method for you guys. So here you go, you can see I have 2 equally sized sheets. I moved one off to the side. We're just gonna focus on this one for now. So what I'm doing here is I'm just showing you that it is longer than it is tall. I know there's an exact ratio that makes these work the best. I just kind of eyeball it and it seems to be working. So go ahead and fold it in half and don't be faked out by that line that's already in there. That was just from when it was a paper bag. We are now converting it to a sketchbook. So this line that we have actually made is going to be the more important line. So now you've got your previous fold at the top. You're going to fold the edges up to that line. So just flipping it over and making that exact same fold up to the previous fold. So you have a little accordion pamphlet. There we go. Now I'm going to open that back up. Those lines we just did are going to be marks so we can see where we need to fold to rather than lines that we're going to keep. So this is the folded edge. What you want to do is form a little triangle and line up the edge with one of those folds. There we go, and I like to put a nice crease in this one because you base a lot of the other folds that are coming up off of the point of this triangle. So I really like that upper point to be nice and sharp so I can see it. So there we go, you can see there's that point. Now we're going to fold this up to where that point is just at the bottom. And I use the previous fold lines to help keep everything lined up. So if you line up the bottom edge with the fold lines in the middle of the paper, you know that everything's going to be straight. There we go, there's that fold done. Now we're going to flip this over to where our fold is at the top. Now we're going to fold the new bottom edge, not to the top fold, but to the edge of that underside. So hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm not folding it to the top. I'm folding it so that that bottom fold lines up with the edge that's underneath. There you go. They line up. Now you're going to open that up and you're going to take that fold that's at the top and fold it to the line that's at the very top of that triangle. And this is where having that perfect length to width ratio comes in. You can see here that there's just a little overhang on the top edge of mine, so that top unfolded part doesn't meet exactly. There you go, there's like a 1/4 inch difference. That's just because I don't have that perfect ratio down, but it doesn't really affect the end product. I'm able to still make the sketchbook. So here I am, I'm just cutting along those folds. This is going to be important for finishing up, so cut. And cut. And it's important to make sure you are using the actual folds you made and not any that are in the paper bag. So if you need to fold it in half again and double check, then you certainly can. So you fold the 2 outermost cuts down This is where it gets a little complicated, so if you have to rewind and watch this a few times, definitely do. I did when I was first learning. Now you're going to fold along that triangle. And just press everything down so it stays. Now you will fold that bottom edge up, and the inside flap comes over, and then you just repeat what you did. So it's going to line up all those little flaps. So those middle flaps are going to line up. We're going to fold that bottom part up and then fold it over. And I just am kind of guiding everything into place. And sometimes things don't line up just perfectly. I just kind of flatten them out in that fold I just did. So now we're making the cover. I'm gonna fold those longer sheets in so that they meet in the middle and tuck that front page into the flap. And you can see here, because mine were a little long, they didn't stay lined up with that crease, but I just pushed them out and made them fold, and it worked. Now we're doing the back cover the same as we did the front cover. Just folding it in to meet at the middle and tucking that back sheet into the little flap. And again, you can just see me press out the difference in fold. It works fine. This first time you close it can be a little funky. They don't always fold up just perfectly, but I find if you just kind of guide it into place, you can press it together. So these two middle pieces of paper I like to glue, just because if you have a bag that has designs on it or anything, that's where it will show. So I'm just trimming those up so that they are closer in length. And then I couldn't find my glue stick, so I don't glue it together just right here, but I am showing you this is where you'll put the glue, you will press them together, and then it will work that way. So I really like these, they're super cute. I love drawing on them. I really love repurposing things for sketching. It takes away a lot of that fear that you can get with a new sketchbook of you don't want to ruin your nice sketchbook pages. So I love the idea of these paper bags. And that's how I made it. And then you can always use those little bit of extra paper scraps as a cat toy. This is my cat Doodle, and she loves paper scraps.